Okay,
Hello.
hi, and welcome
to Sort of the Story.
I'm Janey,
I'm Max.
and we are here to tell each other fairy tales, and also you are here. Come on, so excited!
You telegraphed that one for me. That was a softball. I appreciate it.
Ooh, feeling good.
Right over the plate.
Feeling pretty good. Okay, so today Max and I are telling each other famous fairy tales that you will recognize. They're not for kids, so go watch Disney if you're a child.
Not for kids. This is episode 10. We're going to try and do these every once in a while, just sort of as a treat for you guys, and also, new listeners. If this is the first episode you're listening to, because this is the only episode title that seemed familiar to you, then that's why we're doing it. And
welcome. Rate, review, and subscribe.
Ring that bell.
Ring that bell. Ring-a-ling-a-ding that ding-a-ling-a-ding-dong. We don't have a YouTube channel.
We don't. And we never will.
We're very excited today. If you're listening to this too on the day it comes out, this is coming out, I believe, December 30th. Yeah, this is our New Year's / almost New Year's Eve episode. So Happy New Year if you're listening to this in the future.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in 2022.
2022. Cool.
So this week, because these are such big fairy tales that have such a long literary history, we are going to be splitting this up into 2 episodes. So this episode is just going to be my story, which is The Little Mermaid.
And then next week is Cinderella.
Cinderella with Janey.
Today Max is going first, and these are doozies because they're so popular and they're so unbelievably long and fucked up that we better get right to it. So,
all right. So today I am doing the story of The Little Mermaid.
Cool.
I'm very excited about it. I honestly wasn't super excited about this episode because I was like, I don't really like a lot of the fairy tales that I brought to mind first. I was kind of like, these are, they've been done, and especially there are a lot of podcasts out there that do fairy tales and stuff like that. I was like, this is going to be really hard to do.
But nobody like us.
Nobody quite like us too. These 2 lovable scams.
Aw, these 2 little ghouls.
But I decided to go with The Little Mermaid. This was my favorite story when I was a kid. I had a big collection of Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales, and it was the pages were gold on the side. It was a really nice finely bound book and everything like that, and it was my absolute favorite book. It was children's versions of the Hans Christian Andersen. They were very heavily abridged, which I found out today because when I read it, it was 11 or 12 pages long, and I was doing my research for this one, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just do my research, I'll brush up on the story details, and then I'll be ready to go. And then I was like, well, I should probably actually read the original text just to, so that I have an idea. It's long, guys. It is a full, novella almost. It is a long one.
We also were supposed to record on Wednesday, and I kept putting it off because I was sleepy, which is what it's like to work with me. And then we got today and we're like, we'll do this fine. We both an hour before were like, let's just brush up on our stories. We already know them. And then an hour and a half passed and we're like, we're almost done, I promise. Oh God.
Yeah, there's a lot here, guys. I have a lot that I want to talk about with this one, but I'm going to save it all till the end because I've been really bad about adding content warnings to my story. I feel like this one, heavy content warning. There is body horror, there is abusive romantic relationships, it's messed up. It's not I will try not to be indelicate about it, but this is a gross one. This is one that
I'm so excited.
Yeah. This is part 1 of my 17-part pitch to have Guillermo del Toro make a movie of The Little Mermaid.
Ooh, starring Pepper. Get up here. Come on. Pepper, what are you doing? Come on. She heard body horror and she came running.
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell me the tale. I am excited.
All right. This book is also it's publicly available. I found a copy on Gilead. They have all of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales available for free on their website. Very easy to read and everything like that. So you can look there for the full text. But I just wanted to go ahead and read the opening paragraph for you guys. Mm-hmm. Hans Christian Andersen, I believe this is a working translation. I meant to look that up and I totally forgot. But this is one of the most beautiful descriptions I've read in a very long time. So again, if you have the chance to read this book, please do. Or if you haven't already, or if you have and you want to read it again, take this as your excuse. Far out in the ocean, where the water is as blue as the prettiest cornflower and as clear as a crystal, it is very, very deep. So deep indeed that no cable could fathom it. Many church steeples, piled one upon another, would not reach from the ground to the surface of the water above. There dwell the Sea King and his subjects. We must not imagine that there is nothing at the bottom of the sea but bare yellow sand. No, indeed, the most singular flowers and plants grow there, the leaves and stems of which are so pliant that the slightest agitation of the water causes them to stir as if they had life. Fishes, both large and small, glide between the branches, as birds fly among the trees here upon land. In the deepest spot of all stands the castle of the Sea King. Its walls are built of coral, and the long Gothic windows are of the clearest amber. The roof is formed of shells that open and close as the water flows over them. Their appearance is very beautiful, for in each lies a glittering pearl, which would be fit for the diadem of a queen.
Ooh, gorgeous.
Absolutely
That
gorgeous.
is a beautiful opening paragraph.
Right? So our story starts this beautiful castle under the waves. The Sea King, king of the sea, believe it or not,
What?
presides over this castle and all its inhabitants. He is a widower. His wife has passed some time ago. His mother, the dowager princess, keeps his house and cares for his 6 daughters. The whole castle all around is surrounded by these beautiful gardens that are, each garden is tended by one of the 6 princesses. And one of the princesses, she shapes her garden like a whale, and another shapes it like a mermaid, which is a weird call because she's a mermaid.
Just imagine having a bunch of trees just shaped like a person.
But there's one that stands out, and it is a garden that is shaped like a sun. It is big and round, and all of the flowers in it are bright, beautiful crimson red. And that is the garden of the youngest of the mermaid princesses. She's quieter than the other princesses, and she spends most of her days looking up at the sun. And that is why her garden is shaped like the sun, because that's most of what she thinks about is the sun and what it is like to be on the surface. Many things from shipwrecks float down to the princesses here, and lots of them they get very excited about the baubles and all of the little luxuries of human life that they receive. But the littlest princess, she has one thing that she rescued from a shipwreck that she holds very dear. It's in the middle of her garden, and it is a white marble statue of a boy. And this is her prized possession. She plants a weeping willow tree over the statue. It has rose-colored flowers that reach down and brush the boy's hair. And she'll sit all day long and talk to the statue and sleep under the shade of the willow tree that is underwater.
Little willow weed. A seaweed.
Yeah, here you go.
Got it. Anemone.
So her grandmother is a very, very proud mermaid. She's of a very high birth. Most mermaids are only allowed to wear 6 oysters on their tail as an indicator of their class. She wears 12.
What? Fancy bitch.
I love her. She tells all of the princesses' stories about the world above, because when mermaids turn 15, especially the mermaid princesses, they are allowed to go to the surface, but not before. So when the mermaid princesses are all younger, she tells them stories about the world up above because they're not allowed to go, and they all sit enthralled. And she tells them about the fishes that fly up in the sky because the princesses don't know what birds are, and all of these beautiful things. The oldest, they're all separated by 1 year in age. So the oldest turns 15 first, obviously, and she promises to come back and tell her little sisters what she sees when she goes up to the surface for the first time. And the Little Mermaid is the most excited because she, this is all she thinks about all day long is what it's like on the surface. And she'll sit and she'll look up above the waves and, see the sun and watch the waves and things overhead, like fish up above, and then things floating on the waves. And sometimes she can even see a cloud pass over the sun. The oldest goes on her first mission up to the surface to see it's described sort of like a Rumspringa.
Yeah.
Where they're like allowed to go, and then they're allowed to go anytime they want after they're 15.
Yeah.
But it's like, go up there, see what it's like, and then, you'll realize that it's better here.
That under the sea is better. Cue the music.
Yeah, there you go. So the oldest goes up, and she comes back down, and she spends her whole time. She goes up, and it's nighttime, and she just watches this city at night, and all of these candles are being lit, and lanterns and everything, and she watches them all spring to life, and she describes it as like twinkling stars. And so she just watches these lights in people's windows from out in the water, and she hears the sounds of bells as the church rings the time as night falls. And so she comes back and she tells her sisters all about all this beautiful stuff. A year later, the second turns 15. She goes up at sunset and she describes all of these beautiful pink and red washed clouds. She can't really explain the concept of clouds. She's like, they're like waves, but not.
Also, just imagine how, like, dark and monochrome under the sea is. Like, I mean, it's not monochrome, but, like, everything's all, like, dark blue and stuff. And then you, like, break the surface and everything's pink. Like, whew.
Yeah. Yeah, it is described, like, everything under the sea, it's described as, like, bright and beautiful and, like, sparkling, but it is all in casts of blue. So she sees the sunset, and she doesn't understand what the sun is, really, and so she sees it dipping below the waves, and she goes and tries to save it, and so she swims towards the sun until it dips below the horizon, and then she comes back and tells her sisters. The third is the bravest. She goes up to the surface, and she swims up a little river into, like, land, basically. She sees all these green hills and the spires of distant palaces, like vines growing out over the water and everything. She finds a group of children that are playing by the stream, and she tries to play with them. And they can swim in the water, but she can't go on the land. She sees a dog, and she tries to explain what a dog is. She's like, it's like a little thing. It's like if a fish was bad at swimming. So she tries to describe this, and she talks about, like, the laughter of the children and everything that she can hear, but she can't.
Children see her?
Mm-hmm. Oh. Also, though, she can't stay out of the water for too long because she gets a sunburn. Oh. She tries to hang out with them, but she's like, the sun, it was stinging my face like a jellyfish, and so I had to go back into the water. So the fourth sister is very, very shy, but she goes up, and it's in the middle of a thunderstorm, and so she describes these distant ships and everything, and she sits on a rock close to shore and just watches, like, lightning fork into the water and thunder roll over the waves and everything like that, and all of these ships, you know, plunging and rising and everything in the water. She describes the sails of the ships as being like seagulls diving for fish, so they do know what birds are. A lot of weird
well, in The Little Mermaid, she has a seagull friend.
That's true.
So, like, maybe they have met a seagull.
Yeah.
And that's the only bird they know.
Maybe.
And they think he's a big ugly fish.
Oh, he's a pelican.
No, Scuttle is a seagull. Oh my god, I just broke you.
Oh, I was thinking of Finding Nemo.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Same.
So the fourth, she tells the story about the waves and, like, the darkness of the sky and everything, and the feeling of rain falling and everything. When you're in the water for your whole life, and then you come out of the water, and then water comes to you, imagine how disorienting that is. So the fifth goes up, and her birthday is in the winter. And so she goes up to the surface, and she sees icebergs that she describes as white and iridescent as pearls. And she also sees kind of another distant storm, but this one's more of like a wintertime squall and everything like that. And she sees the ships, and she describes them. So at this point also, the Little Mermaid is frothing at the mouth. She's like, I have spent my whole life. And all of her sisters are coming back and describing these things. And it's also described that as time goes on, especially as all of these sisters are getting older and older, after about a month of being able to visit the surface, they get kind of bored of it. Because, like, it's this big, mysterious, magical thing, but then, you know, they might spend a couple days up there, or they might, you know, and then it becomes like a couple of hours and stuff like that, and they kind of get bored with it, you know? And it's, they realize that things are better under the ocean, but they still go up. The five older sisters go up during storms, and they sing to sailors, and they tell them, basically, don't worry, like, if your ship sinks, this is our dad's castle and you'll be totally safe, which is not true.
Yeah,
they don't know that people can't breathe. But also the sailors can't hear them over the squall of the storm, so it's fine. Yeah. They don't kill anyone.
They're very sweet. This so far is the sweetest little setup. I love them.
I absolutely love it. I also, this story does read like it's been through a couple of very sudden rounds of edits, where, like, this is one of the first moments where I was like, this feels like this was different before. But it was like, and they didn't kill anyone.
Don't worry, they were gentle and they loved people.
So there are these five sisters, and finally, the littlest mermaid turns 15. Her grandmother, for her 15th birthday, attaches 8 oysters to her tail. Ooh. So still more than normal people. Not quite as many as her, but still a lot.
Not as distinguished, but still.
I didn't think of this when I heard the grandmother's oysters, but they specifically say when the grandmother attaches the oysters, the Little Mermaid yelps in pain because oysters have sharp shells and they attach using like spikes to whatever they are attached to.
Shit.
So the Little Mermaid is like, this is incredibly painful, and the grandmother says, "Pride must suffer pain."
All right.
Yeah, so it's her birthday. They have this whole celebration. Finally, the Littlest Mermaid is allowed to go up to the surface. She comes up right next to a ship where a massive celebration is going on. There are colored lanterns and fireworks, and she describes watching fireworks and thinking that the stars, which she is seeing for the first time, it is nighttime, she's seeing the stars for the first time, and then she sees fireworks, and she sees the fireworks falling into the ocean, like the sparks, and she's like, oh, I didn't realize that stars could come into the ocean. And there's music and like flags all over the ship, and everyone is singing and dancing and everything. And she just watches this party, basically. She sees a young man, a prince, 16 years old, dark hair, coal black eyes, and he is dancing and laughing and having the best time.
Relieved that he is 16.
Oh, yeah. I specifically noted that because I was like, thank God.
Because just knowing that she's going up at 15, I was like, God damn it, she's gonna fall in love with like a 32-year-old.
I know, I was so happy.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 2 sweet teenagers.
Yes.
Got it.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So she just watches this prince dancing, and she thinks about how much he looks like the statue that she loves so much and everything. I should say, in this version of the story, the statue is not him. It is just a statue of a boy.
She's being a little bit racist.
Yeah.
Being like, wow, he looks just like that statue.
He's got 2 tail things. Just like my statue. So she watches this party, and she just sort of like, she hides in the sea foam as the waves lap against the edge of the ship. And she just watches this party, and eventually it starts to die down, and everyone sort of goes to bed, and then there are only a few sailors up on the ship watching the water and everything like that. And in the middle of the night, a storm comes, and she doesn't really realize what's happening. But, you know, the waves start to get higher, and the ship starts to pitch back and forth, and she watches as the prow dives into the water and comes back up and sprays, and she thinks that this looks like fun.
Yeah.
So she's watching, and she's kind of splashing in the water as well. And then she starts hearing people shouting, and she sees lightning fork across the sky, and she's like, oh, this is actually dangerous. And as she's thinking this, one of the masts of the ship cracks under the force of the wind blowing, and it falls into the ocean next to her, and she has to dive out of the way to avoid being crushed. And she's like, oh, okay, this is real danger. Turns
out this is no fun.
So she's dodging all of these planks as this like full like hurricane basically hits this ship
really suddenly. They were just partying.
Yeah, it's been a couple of hours, but it's like the planks are cracking, and like the sails are ripping off and whipping into the sea. She sees the prince run up onto the deck, and he does his best to help. He's, you know, like grabbing ropes and, trying to help people stay upright and everything. But a massive wave pitches and throws him off the boat. She watches him fall into the water in the middle of a huge pile of debris, basically, that is sinking slowly towards the ocean floor. And she goes into this debris, not even worrying about the fact that any of these things could crush her. And she grabs him and pulls him up to the surface. And by the time she gets back to the surface, there isn't a ship anymore.
Oh, fuck.
It is the only signs left of the ship are planks floating on the pitching waves.
Jeez.
So she holds him above water all night long and just sort of lets the waves take them towards shore. And finally, just as dawn is approaching, she starts to see land. And so she swims towards land, and she brings the prince up onto the beach, and she actually brings him up. There's a very small little river. She remembers what her sister told her about being able to swim upriver. So she swims upriver a little bit to where she sees this building, and she puts him on the shore, and then she waits in the sea foam until someone comes and finds him. And she hears all of them like cheer and get so excited that they've saved him, basically.
Yeah.
And then she swims back into the ocean, knowing that he's safe. So she goes back into the ocean, and she doesn't tell anyone what she's seen at first. Over the next couple of days and weeks, she goes to the surface every single day, and she checks the shore to see if she can see the prince walking or anything. During this time, she stops tending to her garden, and all of her flowers become overgrown, and the leaves wilt and turn brown. Huge vines creep up over the willow tree. But every single day, she sits in front of the statue and cries over this marble statue. Eventually, her sisters are so worried for her that they get it out of her, basically. What she's seen, this prince and everything, and how she saved his life. Her sisters also immediately tell everyone.
Gossipy bitches.
Yeah, and there are these two other mermaids that one of the princesses knows who have seen this prince in the weeks since the Little Mermaid's birthday. They tell her about the palace that he lives in and where she can find it. So she, every night after that, she goes up to the castle and she watches the lights in the windows. She watches him walking on the beach and, sitting on the terrace and laughing with all of his family and friends. She hears people walking around the castle telling stories about all of the things that he's doing. And she's so proud of him. And she's so proud of herself for saving him, because she's like, he wouldn't have been able to do any of this. I'm so glad that he has this whole life to lead. On this train of thought, though, she's like, what would have happened if I hadn't been there? Would he have died? And how does that work? So she goes to her grandma and she says, if humans don't drown, do they still die? And her grandmother explains to her that while mermaids can live to as old as 300 years, when they die, they turn into sea foam. They don't even leave a body behind.
Oh my god, so all that sea foam she's been swimming in is just dead bodies?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
So they turn into sea foam. They don't leave anything for a grave, and they don't have souls. So they don't have any sort of immortal afterlife or anything like that waiting for them. Mm-hmm. Her grandmother says that by contrast, humans live very short lives, but they have eternal souls. So even after they die, they live on. And she explains that as we rise to the surface and see a world that is not ours, so people rise to places we can never see, which is heaven.
Yeah. I don't want a heaven with no mermaids. No, thank you.
That doesn't sound like heaven to me. I want a refund. So the Little Mermaid is despondent over this news that death exists.
Doesn't have a soul. God, she's having the worst 15th year ever.
God. She's really living in a daily tragedy.
They're like, and also Santa Claus can't come under the sea. She's like,
what's a Santa Claus?
Oh my god, why would you
crab
give me
claws? Just a little mermaid humor for you.
Just, you know what? Just a little break in the story. Mermaids have no souls, and also Santa Claus is spelled with an A-W. Go ahead.
Santa Claus.
Oh.
The Little Mermaid, throws herself into her grandmother's arms and cries, and she says that she would rather spend one day as a human among humans than 300 years as a mermaid with no hope of an afterlife. And she asks her grandmother if she can ever win a soul somehow, so that she doesn't have to just die and become foam. Her grandmother explains that if a human man loves a mermaid, then his soul will be shared with her so that they both can have eternal souls and live on after their death, basically. However, her grandmother explains that while mermaids love their tails and think that they're very pretty, humans are like, ew, nasty.
Gross.
Pretty nasty. So, obviously, a man will never love you if you have a nasty fish tail.
God.
Which is pretty harsh, Grandma.
Yeah.
But she's like, but look, don't be sad. There's a ball tonight at the palace. It'll be so much fun. And the mermaid is confronting the idea of mortality. And she's like, the ball. So there's a ball that night at the palace, and all of the princesses sing. It's the opening of the movie, The Little Mermaid.
Okay, so now we're starting the Disney movie.
There you go. All of the princesses are singing, and the littlest mermaid, her voice is the most beautiful of all. Mm-hmm. And everyone falls silent upon hearing her voice. And as soon as she's done, they clap and they cry out. And for a moment, she feels very happy that she is so skillful and that, everyone loves her voice so much and that everyone's having so much fun. And then she remembers the party that she saw on the ship above the water, and she remembers the prince, and she gets sad again. So she decides in that moment, while everyone is distracted at the party, she's going to go to the Sea Witch. Oh, the Sea Witch! Bum, bum, bum. Who she has always been afraid to go see, because nobody goes to the Sea Witch.
Okay.
So this part of the story is thrilling. I think I have a couple of lines that I want to read from it, but basically, she goes and finds the Sea Witch, and she has to pass out of this beautiful blue realm of her father's kingdom and into an area where the sand is described as being yellow and drab, and there are all these whirlpools and sharp rocks and everything, and she has to go through a whirlpool to get to the Sea Witch's domain, basically. Yeah. So she has to dive through the swirling water to, she gets to this bubbling mire below the sand that stretches as far as the eye can see, and this this is the realm of the sea witch. It is full of all these fat, pale, like gross, wiggly serpents and worms and all of these twisted coral polyps and the skeletons of sailors that have fallen to the bottom of the ocean. And also she sees there's one skeleton of a mermaid who was somehow caught in this mire.
And who didn't turn to sea foam.
Yeah. Yeah. Hang on a minute. Is she still alive?
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
Ew.
She's like those Tibetan monks. But
she's just like those Tibetan monks.
Just like those Tibetan...
No soul! I'm kidding. Says Max.
So she's traversing this cruel terrain, and the water's colder than she's ever felt, and there's very little light filtering down this deep. And she comes to this house built of pieces of shipwrecks and bits of skeletons and miscellaneous bones and mud. So she gets to this house, and the sea witch is sitting outside. She has all of these sea snakes kind of in a garden in front of her house, and she's talking to them. Sorry, she's calling them her little chickens, and she's like,
little chickens.
Yeah, she's like holding them in her arms and everything, and then like feeding them.
Okay, so she loves her little chickens.
She's described as being like gross and like muddy, and she has all these like seaweed in her hair and everything, and she's holding a big fat toad and letting it eat out of her mouth.
Okay. A sea toad?
Uh-huh.
Are those...
Nope.
Okay.
Hans Christian Andersen describes it as being like, like when you let a canary eat a sugar cube out of your mouth.
Yeah, you know.
This story's from the 1830s. Things were different. I feel like I've seen that, but I feel like that's not a reference that is universally understood.
I mean, yeah, today it's more universal to let a toad eat out of your mouth. Yeah. So, we could have just said that, Hans.
So she's letting this big fat toad eat out of her mouth, and she's playing with all of her little sea snake chickens. And the Little Mermaid comes up, and she turns to look at her, and she's like, I already know what you're going to wish for. All right, so here's the deal. She says that you can trade your tail for legs to win the prince's love, because obviously he's not going to love you if you have an assy fishtail.
Yeah, gross. Even though Columbus did fuck a manatee, the tail did not throw him off.
We'll come back to that. Uh-huh. She said you'll be able to walk around on the surface with the grace of a mermaid. But each step, and this is very upsetting, guys, each step will feel like you are stepping on knives, and your feet will bleed as though you are stepping on knives.
Oh my god.
She says if you decide to forego your tail, then you will never be able to return. You'll never be able to come home. You'll never see your family again. You will have to stay on the surface until you die. And you will die if the prince marries another person. The next morning, your heart will break and you will turn into morning sea foam. So
she didn't even like the pinch of like an oyster. Like,
no.
I can't believe that she's like, yeah, I'll be fine with knives on my feet.
Yeah, they really don't. This isn't a difficult decision for her. This isn't something that she like labors over.
Well, she's also 15. Like, you know when you're like, I want this at 15, and then you'll just fucking do it no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the sea witch is like, all right, now I know this all sounds super appealing, but there is a price. The price is your voice. Mm-hmm. There's a whole song about it.
Yeah.
She says, the best thing you possess will I have for the price of my draft. She has to use her own blood, that the potion may be as sharp as a two-edged sword, like the sharpness of her blood.
Yeah.
So the Little Mermaid says, what'll be left for me if I don't have my voice? Like, how am I supposed to win?
You have your looks, your pretty face.
Almost verbatim. Hang on, I took a screenshot because almost verbatim.
And don't underestimate the importance of body language.
But if you take away my voice, said the Little Mermaid, what is left for me? Your beautiful form, your graceful walk, and your expressive eyes. Surely with those you can enchain a man's heart. Well, have you lost your courage? Put out your little tongue that I may cut it off as my payment. Then you shall have the powerful draft. Almost verbatim. Just being like, God. Just use your hips.
Cut out her tongue. Not just take her voice.
No, cut out her tongue.
Okay.
The Little Mermaid says yes.
Yeah.
No deliberation whatsoever. It's like, yeah, that seems fair. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the witch is like, all right, let's get this show on the road. She lights a fire under her massive black cauldron. She scours it out with snakes, which, like, those are your chickens, man. Leave those chickens alone. She scours it out with snakes, and she says, cleanliness is a good thing. Which is just a little throw-in.
Sure.
She pricks with a pin her breast, and this thick, black, oozing blood comes out. She lets it flow into the cauldron. The steam in the cauldron forms into these horrible, indescribable shapes, and she keeps throwing more and more things in. Again, almost exactly the scene from the movie. We got this really right.
You can skip this part and just watch that scene on YouTube and then come back.
And she says that the sound of the boiling, like of the thick mixture, sounds like a crocodile weeping, which is a sound I've never heard.
That's a crocodile.
And now I have.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It's really sad.
So in the moment that the witch, she sets down her spoon, and in that moment, the mixture turns to as clear as water. She turns to the Little Mermaid, cuts off her tongue. They don't spend any time on that.
Yeah.
It's like she turns around, cuts out her tongue, puts it in, and then she scoops up a glass bottle of the potion, and she says, take this once you get to land. Drink it. Also, on your way out, if any of my, like, coral or snakes or whatever give you any trouble, just splash a little bit of this potion on them with your fingers, and they'll, like, get the point and leave you alone.
Okay.
The glass bottle that the potion is in is said to shine like a twinkling star, and she doesn't have any problems leaving, because as soon as these deep sea creatures see this shining light, they shrink away from her because they know what it means. So she sets off back for the surface. She passes the palace. All of the lights are out. The party is over. Her palace, the Sea King's palace. She passes the palace. She can't bear to stop in to say goodbye, because she, first of all, doesn't have a voice. But also because she already feels that, you know, she didn't consider how much she was going to miss her family, and so she feels a little bit selfish. She's a little bit ashamed. So she doesn't want to go home to say goodbye. But she goes to each of her sister's gardens. She takes a flower from each, and then she blows kisses. She blows 1,000 kisses at the castle, and she turns and starts walking towards the beach. She arrives at the shore of the prince's palace, and it is still night. She pulls herself up onto the beach, and she drinks the potion, and immediately this feeling shoots through her as if a two-edged sword went through her delicate body. She faints from the pain of this. Yeah. And she wakes up as the sun is starting to come up in the morning. She still has this sharp, searing pain throughout her body. But she wakes up, and the first thing she sees is the prince's coal-black eyes looking down at her. He's found her on his morning walk, and he's waiting for her to wake up. She is so ashamed at the intensity of his gaze that her eyes drop, and she realizes that she no longer has a tail, and she has 2 long white legs with teeny tiny feet. She also realizes that she's naked, so she wraps herself up in her hair. And then the prince basically brings her to the castle and makes clothes for her of the finest silks and muslin.
He makes clothes for her?
He has made, I guess. This is also...
They don't just have clothes around?
No.
All right.
Also, guys, we're, like, almost 2/3 of the way through the story. The prince is not a character in this. He is barely a character. So he doesn't... There's no description of this conversation when he finds this girl on the beach. Like, they don't say anything to her. It's just... He finds her and then brings her to his house to get clothes. Yeah. As he brings her up to the castle, though, it describes that every single one of her steps is a searing pain, and she leaves marks of blood on the beach behind her as they walk towards the castle.
This prince doesn't ask any questions. No. This is all very suspicious. No.
Guys, okay.
Okay, also, she doesn't have a tongue. She has a freshly cut out tongue. She's trailing blood, and she's completely naked. And he's like, you need a dress.
Let's give you a makeover.
Oh my god, you're so cute.
Guys, this prince sucks. He sucks ass.
Okay, so Prince Eric was a really good rewrite, because he was great.
Yeah, this prince sucks ass. You can see as I go through, my writing gets, like, all of my notes, my writing gets jagged and, like, huge, angry letters, because every single thing that he does is the most selfish, self-centered, short-sighted, careless, cruel thing I have ever read in a book. From moment one, he's Prince. The biggest douchebag I have ever read.
Doesn't care that she's clearly gone through some trauma.
No.
Okay, go ahead. Exciting.
I am trying to keep it together so I can get to the end of the story, but this guy fucking sucks.
I will say there's a theme in a lot of your stories where there's random quiet male characters who don't really come in, but we fucking hate them.
Oh my god.
You know?
Oh my god.
And here's another one.
That's because I feel like a lot of my stories are like heroine-centered. Yeah. And also a lot of them are written by men. So they write heroines like they write heroes. Yeah. And so the love interest is not interesting. The love interest is interesting only for the romantic components, I feel like. Yeah. This prince fucking sucks, guys. Okay. So He brings her to the castle. He gets her dressed in all these fine silks and muslins, and his family welcomes her and says that they'll take care of her. They don't actually say this in the book, I assume. So they all go to the throne room, and she sits at the prince's feet, and they have all these female slaves come in silks and gold, and they sing for the royal family. And one of them has, the littlest one, has a very, very beautiful voice. When she finishes, the prince claps, and he goes to her specifically and thanks her for her beautiful song.
She's a slave?
Yes.
Okay.
Then the slaves all dance together, and the Little Mermaid is like, oh, thank God. Because the whole time that the slaves were singing, she was thinking to herself, like, they're good, but I was better. And if only I didn't realize that the prince liked singing so much, or else I might not have given up my voice so easily. So the slaves all start to dance, and the Little Mermaid joins in with them, and she has an unbelievable grace. She dances like nothing you've ever seen before. She dances like she's under the water, so she has like a lightness of step and a grace that nobody's ever seen.
But
at the same time, her feet are fully openly bleeding.
All the slaves
every
are like,
moment is agony.
All of the slaves are like slipping in her blood. So I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow, she's so elegant, especially since everyone else keeps slipping and falling.
Everyone at the end of it is like bruised and covered in blood. Where is it coming from?
So when the dance is over, the prince is completely enchanted with her. He's never seen anything quite like her before. And he calls her his little foundling. Oh, this lovely little thing that I've found.
Oh my god. Guys, don't let anybody call you a foundling. Also, like, foundling... Oh god. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Fucking no.
Okay.
Yep.
I have like 7 angry question marks in this paragraph. The prince says that his little foundling should remain with him always. She sleeps on a velvet cushion in front of his door.
Like a goddamn dog?
Like a dog.
Like a goddamn dog? Like a goddamn dog?
Like a dog. And he has made for her a page's dress, like a Page, like an attendant, basically.
Sure. And also a little collar with a little bell.
And so she goes with him on his horseback rides in the woods and everything. And she gets to see the forest, which she absolutely loves. She gets to spend all this time with him. And she's so happy. He takes her to climb mountains.
No, she can't do that.
So she can see the snowy peaks.
Please look at her feet, goddammit.
And as she climbs the mountain, she leaves red footsteps behind her because every step is bleeding agony. And he's like, let's go mountain climbing. Like, I don't know. Do you want to join like a half marathon?
She's not that big. We've established she's very small. Just put her on somebody's back.
I just don't. Why would you?
Yeah. A quick half marathon before breakfast. And she's like,
Okay. Every night after the prince falls asleep, she creeps out of the castle and she sits at the marble steps that go towards the ocean, and she dangles her feet in the seawater because it's the only thing that makes her burning, stinging, bleeding souls feel better.
Okay. Oh, good God.
Once while she was sitting out at night in the cool air, her sisters came up to the surface a little ways away, and they saw her and they recognized her, and they all greeted each other, and she was like, I missed you so much. And they were like, we thought you were dead. We like grieved for you and everything.
But she can't say I missed you so much because she doesn't.
She says it with her eyes.
Oh.
One of them tells her that, her grandmother is losing her hair. She's so sad because she's missing her and everything. One night, after that, her sisters come and see her every night, basically. One night she sees off far in the distance a glint of silver on the water, and she sees her grandmother with her silver hair and her silver crown peek her head up above the surface. Her grandmother hasn't been up to the surface in almost 200 years, and she came up just to see her from a distance. And then she sees her father come up next to her, the Sea King, and he's even further away because he is terrified of being out of the water. And they both come to see her, and they wave at her, and they beckon to her, and then they wait, and then they sink back below the waves.
Oh, it's so sad.
And they won't come any closer because they don't want to be on land.
Yeah. Jesus. This is devastating.
So I have another, this is another quote that I wanted to read out loud. As the days passed, she loved the prince more fondly, and he loved her as he would love a little child. But it never came into his head to make her his wife. Yet unless he married her, she could not receive an immortal soul, and on the morning after his marriage with another, she would dissolve into the foam of the sea. Do you not love me the best of them all? The eyes of the little mermaid seemed to say when he took her in his arms and kissed her fair forehead. Yes, you are dear to me, said the prince, for you have the best heart, and you are the most devoted to me. You are like a young maiden whom I once saw, but whom I shall never meet again. I was in a ship that was wrecked, and the waves cast me ashore near a holy temple, where several young maidens performed the service. The youngest of them found me on the shore and saved my life. I saw her but twice, and she's the only one in the world whom I could love. But you are like her, and you've almost driven her image out of my mind.
So, he thinks he was saved by someone else.
By one of the people that found him on the shore.
Because he was
it turns out
during the whole time he was in water.
It turns out that the building that she had put him next to on the shore was a temple, like a women's temple. And they came and they found him. And the youngest of the women at the temple was the one who he woke up to. And he, she called everyone over and brought him up to the temple and nursed him back to health for like a couple of hours. And then he went home.
Yeah.
But just him being like, oh, you're so nice to me. And that's the best. But like, I wish you were this other girl. But you're like close enough, I guess.
He's just saying that to her face.
To her face.
As he kisses her forehead and leads her on.
Yeah, he's absolutely the worst person who has ever lived in all of history forever.
Sure, yeah.
Basically, he's like, I love this woman who I can never have because she lives at a temple. I assume that she's a priestess. And so she's devoted to the temple. She can never leave and she can never take a husband. But I can't have her. So you're like fine as a second option.
Good God.
So the mermaid is like, okay, well, at least she belongs to the temple, so they're never going to meet again.
Yeah.
Which
at least there's
is
no
not a good
there.
at least.
I know, but she's just a little mermaid. What does she know?
So the prince is set to. It's suspected that he's going to end up marrying this princess of a neighboring kingdom, right? Their fathers are friends. He's never actually met her, but everyone just kind of assumes that that's what's going to happen. He at this point has been 2 or 3 years since his 16th birthday, so it's getting to an age where he should be marrying. His parents arrange a trip to the neighboring kingdom, and everyone sort of figures, he's going to ask the princess to marry him while they're there, just for convenience's sake, I guess. So the prince goes to the Little Mermaid and says, I won't marry her because she's not the temple maiden who you resemble.
Oh, good God. Good God.
He says, I can have no love for her. If I were forced to marry, I mean, I would rather marry you than like some princess who I don't even know.
You, my little dog who sleeps outside my room on a cushion.
I would rather marry you than this princess who isn't the temple maiden that I'm obsessed with. Yes. If I were forced to choose a bride, I would rather choose you, my dumb foundling with those expressive eyes. I want to kill him.
I know that he's saying dumb because she doesn't speak.
Also, though,
but like,
still insensitive.
You stupid idiot. That's basically what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's awful.
I hate
it. Also, here's another little thing. They sail to the neighboring kingdom, and while they're on the ship, he's like, my dumb little foundling, you mustn't be afraid of the sea. It's full of many wonderful things. And he tells her about waves.
He mansplains about the sea to waves
and fish, and he's like, and some people have been to the bottom, and they say it's cool, and she's like, He mansplains the sea to a mermaid.
He found her on the beach.
He's
like he didn't find her in the middle of a desert. Every night she goes and sits in the ocean, and he's like, you're gonna love this. Dude. Yep. Dude.
They sail for several days, and on the first night, as she sits and dangles her feet into the water over the edge of the ship, and as she looks down, she thinks she sees the shining spires of her father's palace. And as it gets darker, the waves start to calm, and she can see further, and she sees that it is her father's palace. And she sees her grandmother sitting at the highest point of the palace and looking up and just watching the ship up above.
Wait, so she can see this, but nobody else can?
They don't know to look.
Oh, okay.
But also she's been under the ocean for her whole life, so she can probably see through water.
Just knows where they are.
Maybe? I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, so she looks up and she looks down and she sees her grandmother looking up at her the same way that she used to look up and watch like the clouds pass over the sun and everything. And she sees all of her sisters and her father come out and join her grandmother, and they look up. Her sisters swim up to the surface and they go to like clasp her hands, but then a cabin boy comes out to check on the rigging, and they dive back under the surface before he can see them.
Go back home, Little Mermaid.
I know. So they arrive in the kingdom finally. They spend several days. There are all these huge festivals, but there's no sign of the princess yet. They're just the prince's royal family is just hanging out with the princess's family in the castle, and they have all these festivals and carnivals and everything happening in the streets. So they're very busy with parties for the first couple of days. The Little Mermaid is kind of enjoying seeing all the festivities, and she overhears people saying that the princess isn't here yet because they had to go send for her because she was away getting an education at a religious institution.
Oh, no. Oh.
Yep. So the princess shows up. It's the Temple Maiden.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
The prince immediately falls in love with her and, asks for her hand in marriage and everything. And as soon as she accepts, he turns to the Little Mermaid and he says, quote, "Oh, I am too happy. My fondest hopes are fulfilled. You will rejoice at my happiness, for your own devotion to me is great and sincere." Just like,
He's been telling her he was going to marry her for years now at this point.
Yeah, he's like, "You're the second best thing to the Temple Maiden, so this is fine." And he's like, "Oh, this is the Temple Maiden. Aren't you so happy for me? This is such a good thing for me. Oh my god, you must be so excited for me."
Fucking selfish.
I hate him.
Vapid idiot.
So they get betrothed. In the next few days, all of these representatives of the church come and bless the union. There's like fragrant oils and all of these ceremonies and everything. At the wedding, the Little Mermaid has to hold the bride's train as she walks down the aisle.
Oh my god.
And meanwhile, she's walking down the aisle and her feet feel like knives.
And she's trailing blood.
Ugh. And after the wedding, they have a reception on the deck of the prince's ship. They've set up all of these like tapestries and lanterns and everything, and they have this big red and purple and gold tent set up with couches inside. So they have this huge party. Everyone's dancing. The Little Mermaid her heart is absolutely broken, but she knows that this is her last night. So she parties and she dances and she rejoices with everyone. And she almost doesn't feel the pain in her feet because a sharper pain had pierced her heart. And this whole time she's talking and she's laughing, and all she can think about. Well, she's hanging out. Yeah, she's hanging out with people and she's laughing and dancing and everything, and listening to the music. But the whole time, all she can think about is that this is her last night and she's going to die in the morning. And she has to watch for the time between then and now. She has to watch the love of her life, like, celebrate with his new wife, who is the reason that she's dying. So as the party slowly starts to turn down and everything, the prince and the princess sort of retire to this tent, and everyone disperses. The Little Mermaid is sitting on the deck of the ship again with her feet in the water, and her sisters come out of the water a little distance away, and she sees that their skin glows pale in the moonlight just like hers, but they no longer have their long, beautiful hair flowing behind them in the water. And they come closer and they explain that they went to the sea witch to try and save her. Ugh. And the witch said that she couldn't undo the spell and that the Little Mermaid knew the terms when she accepted. Yeah. But if all 5 of the sisters give her their long, beautiful hair, then she will try and help to save the Little Mermaid's life. And so they all cut off their hair in return for this silver dagger. And they explain to the Little Mermaid that if she goes into the prince's chambers and kills him before dawn, then the warm blood splashing from his body onto her feet will turn her feet back into a tail, and she'll be able to go back into the ocean. Oh, do it. We hate him anyway. Fucking murder. I would. Hashtag team murder. Yeah, and the sea witch says, you can live the rest of your 300 years as a mermaid. You still won't have a soul, but, you won't die in pain and agony and anguish at first light. So, and the smallest pricks of pink are starting to come over the horizon as her sisters tell her this, and dawn is coming and there isn't much time. So the Little Mermaid goes into this silken tent where the princess and the prince are sleeping, and the princess has her head on the prince's chest, and the Little Mermaid goes up to him and she kisses him on his forehead and she raises the knife, and in his sleep he whispers the princess's name, and she looks at him and at her and at the knife, and she throws the knife into the ocean.
Ugh.
And the point where the silver knife strikes the surface of the ocean, the water turns to boiling red blood, and the sea spray that comes up splashes like blood.
What?
And she looks back at him, and she flings herself into the sea after the blade, because the first light of the sun has just hit the ship, and she knows that she is about to die. So she throws herself into the ocean, and she feels something that feels like, she's like, this is what it must feel like to turn into sea foam and die.
Sure. Probably feels a lot better than knife on her feet.
Probably. She dives into the water, and she's underwater for a few seconds, and then she sort of opens her eyes, and she sees all around her these floating, transparent, glowing figures. And they're all singing this song that it doesn't sound like anything. It doesn't sound like anything that exists in the world. It's a sound that no one, like humans, mermaids, mortals, everything can't hear. And she asks where she is. And all of these voices around her in unison say that they are, that she is among the daughters of the air. They say mermaids need love in order to get a soul and have, their eternal soul and live on after their death. And in order to do that, they have to find some way to make a mortal fall in love with them. The daughters of the air aren't like that. They also live for 300 years, but they earn their soul through their deeds. So
are they all mermaids?
No.
Former mermaids?
They are all air spirits.
Okay.
And their good deeds are going into the desert and being a cool breeze on someone's forehead under like the beating sun, or carrying the perfume of flowers in through people's windows to people who are sick, things like that. Those are all of their good deeds. And they live for 300 years, and if they perform enough of these good deeds during their 300 years, they can ascend to heaven, basically. They get their soul. Exactly. So they say that the Little Mermaid's, her deeds and her selflessness have earned her the right to be a daughter of the air. And they say, you get to spend the next 300 years doing good deeds, and then you can have a soul.
I mean, what a sentence.
She looks around, she realizes that she's still in the world, but she's now turned into wind, basically. And she sees the prince and the princess wake up as dawn comes, and they are looking all over the ship for her, and everyone's like calling out for her and looking, and they can't find her. She goes up to them, and as the wind, she caresses both of their foreheads, and she kisses the prince's cheek one last time. And then she goes back to where, the other daughters of the air are, and she starts to rise up into the air with them. And one of them is like, oh, by the way, you can ascend earlier.
Oh.
Anytime a child is good, you get 1 year less on your sentence. But anytime a child is bad, you're going to cry. And every tear that you cry is going to be 1 day more on your sentence.
What the hell?
And that's how the story ends.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. No, don't just close your goddamn little book.
That's how the story ends.
No, I have some questions.
I have a lot of questions.
Okay, hold on. Are they involved in the child, or just anywhere in the world if a child is bad, no matter where they are?
They say if they go into a child's room and that child is good and deserving of their parents'
love.
in
the room, okay.
Well, but it does, like, if they go into the room at some point, I guess, and if the child stays good forever, but then if the child turns bad, then they cry.
But they don't have any...
So this is what I'm saying about a lot of really harsh edits, where it feels like at the end he was like, oh, fuck, it has to have a moral. Oh, shit.
They're not, like...
They have no way of it doesn't make any sense.
You can't they can't help the child be good. They're not like a little conscience on their shoulder being like, make good decisions.
Nope.
They're just like at the whim of bad children.
Nope. They're in a karmic casino, and they're just rolling the dice.
I wonder if parents at any point were like, hey, you better be good or you're gonna damn an air spirit to be an air spirit for 301 years.
Yeah.
That seems like what they wanted to go for.
That's what I'm saying, is like this whole beautiful story could have just ended with her, in fact, the version that I read first did end with her diving into the ocean and turning to sea foam and all of her sisters crying over her.
Oh shit.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, and then they just added this weird Christian element of
And
purgatory.
then at the very end, there's literally 2 paragraphs, and it's like, oh, by the way, there's like Daughters of the Air, and they do good deeds. They're really nice. And also, if you do good stuff, then it's good for them. But also, if you do bad stuff, then it's bad for them. So don't do bad stuff.
Fucking.
It's the worst and dumbest sequel hook that a fairy tale has ever had.
That being said, now that I know this, I want the Little Mermaid, the Disney version, to end with her diving into the sea and then ascending, right? The second movie, instead of it being like the weird plot of like the Little Mermaid having a daughter and like all this stuff, the other movie could have ended with, or started with her as an angel trying to do all of these like good deeds. That would have been a cool sequel.
Yeah.
Mermaid in the air. That's it. That's the theme song. Air Mermaid.
Yeah, it's like that, what is it, Butterflies in the Sky? I can fly twice as high, but it's Mermaid in the air. Her sisters give up their hair. Aww.
For a knife. In exchange for a life. It was in vain because they don't know what happened. They don't know what happened to her. For all they know, they all cut off their hair. And then she threw the knife into the sea, was like, fuck you guys, and then disappeared forever.
Yeah. Okay, so
she can't like go down to the bottom of the sea. There's no air down there.
So
her poor family.
Real quick, I just, this story to me reads as pretty clearly like a story about abuse. Like, her family is like crying for her to come back and everything like that. And the prince is like, he doesn't really even pay attention to her. She's kind of just a dog to him, where he like tells her all of his secrets and his problems, but doesn't give a shit about her at all.
No.
And every moment she spends with him is agony, but she's like, but it's worth it. It's like,
yeah,
it's not. Okay, one thing that I wanted to talk about, Hans Christian Andersen.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up things about his life because I don't know anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
His life explains this story incredibly. So Hans Christian Andersen was a Danish poet and playwright and author. He is best known, though, obviously for his fairy tales, his literary fairy tales. When he was growing up, his family was relatively poor. When he was a kid, his dad read him Arabian Nights, and that was kind of where his love of stories came from.
That's nice. That's nice to have a story of like a dad being involved in his kids' lives.
Yeah.
Like, especially at that time period. That's nice.
Yeah. And then his dad died.
Oh, no!
And his mom remarried, and his mom had, like, basically no money to her name, and her new husband didn't either. So they ended up sending him away to a school where he was horrifically abused. But he was always a writer and a storyteller. He was an actor and a singer for a little while. This is the 1800s. I should clarify. This is, like,
he moved to Hollywood.
Early 1800s.
But like 1800s version.
He was a soprano for the Royal Danish Theatre for a while.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. A lot of his journals are still intact, which is why we know a lot about his personal life. For most of his early life, he had a couple of women who were completely unattainable to him that he fell in love with. Really just like crazy obsessive love, kind of.
Yeah, like the prince and the temple maiden.
Yeah, but he spent all of his young adulthood celibate.
Yeah.
Later on, though, he found out that he was not straight.
Yeah, he did.
Which, it's, again, this sort of like gender theory and stuff like that wasn't as prevalent or clear then. So it is known that he had male lovers. It is known that he also had female lovers. It is also known that he, especially when he was with his male lovers, would describe himself as like being like a woman. He's like, I love you like a woman loves a man.
Yeah. He's trying to justify it in his head.
Yeah. So there could be some aspect of gender fluidity and stuff like that. But the reason why this is pertinent is because he fell deeply in love with a German noble who he was very good friends with. And he was like, I love you. Like, I'm in love with you. And the guy was like, I'm not. Like, you're my best friend, but I don't want to be with you.
Aww.
And then he married a woman. And that's the story of the Little Mermaid.
That's the story of the Little Mermaid. Just heartbreak.
Just every moment is pain, but he would rather have that than not be with this person who he loved so much and everything. I mean, and he had to watch him be happy. That's the story of the Little Mermaid.
Well, good God, now it's the most romantic tale I've ever heard.
It's heartbreaking. It is incredibly sad. Yeah, so that's kind of where that comes from. I don't want to go into that too terribly much more. He did end up later, there were other men that he had very happy, fulfilling romantic relationships with that he really, really loved and everything. So he did have a lot of other happy things, but I right before we started recording, I wanted to look up and see if I could find when that first really significant love affair was, because I would bet literally anything that it is like right at the same time that he wrote this story.
Or like right after, you know,
Yeah.
like just, ugh.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that. Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Mermaid. I also wanted to talk about, as this is sort of fairy tales, one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this one was the descriptions of the bottom of the ocean. Is I didn't realize that people had dived down that far in the 1830s. And so I did a little bit of research.
Yeah.
People have been doing commercial diving for like sponges and pearls and stuff like that since ancient Greece and Rome.
Yeah.
So they would know some, but also,
But how?
you know, the military applications of diving, like being able to sneak up on ships and stuff like that, were first recorded in the Peloponnesian War, which was also a very long time ago. Diving bells, though, were invented in the 16th and 17th centuries. So they would have been around for quite a while by the time that this story was written. This is just about exactly the time when the first waterproof suits and helmets, though, were invented. So the first time that people could actually like fully dive down and not have as much of the effects of like actually physically being under the water. Like they had the diving bell, which is basically allows you to get air from the surface, but they didn't have a lot of the other protective things. So this is a time when diving was becoming prevalent for the first time. So he was hearing all of these descriptions of people being to the bottom of the ocean for the first time, and that's where all of the descriptions of that come from.
That is wild.
I love it.
I don't know why I've never thought about that. Like,
yeah.
For me, well, because diving in general, even now, with all of our technology, I still think diving is an insane thing to do.
Oh, yeah. The ocean is terrifying.
The ocean is scary and we shouldn't be under there. It's not our domain.
Mm-mm.
But we should send all the billionaires to space, and then also just like nobody should go down to the ocean, I think.
Yeah.
But
we should stick to what we got, I think.
Yeah.
We got like a little bit into the beach, we got like out to the moon, and I think we're pretty much fine from there.
Mm-hmm.
Like we should know what we're getting into
Feeling
before we
good
get
about
into it beyond that, I think.
But that's wild. That's wild that it's that old.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It is. I thought that was really cool.
That is cool.
Also, in terms of connections with other fairy tales, The Little Mermaid is, believe it or not, a mermaid.
Oh.
I know. And so I was thinking, one of the reasons why I decided I did want to tell this story was because I wanted to talk about selkies.
Yes, yes.
Selkies are Scottish.
New cryptid's about to drop, guys.
Yeah. New cryptid of the week.
Bum, 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 bum. I don't know why that was like a bass. Usually it's higher.
So selkies are Scottish folkloric figures who are women who are also seals. They are seals when they're in the water, but they can take off their seal skin and become women and walk on land. A lot of stories about selkies are stories of men seeing them while they're on land, like groups of naked women basically on the beach that are surrounded by these seal skins. And they're always very, very beautiful. And the men will, in many stories, steal the seal skins so that a woman or the women can't go back into the ocean, and then we'll be like, now you have to marry me.
Entrapment.
Yeah, exactly. So he'll like make it so that they can never go back into the ocean, and then they have to live their lives on land and be miserable forever, basically. Which, you know, not ideal.
No, that's not how you get a wife, guys.
But that is also, you know, the story of Undine, I think it is, or Undine, originally written by someone in Germany, I believe, and then there was a play of the same name written in France.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the play is basically about this like man and woman who are separated by, she's like a mer person and he lives on land, and they try to make their love work, but it ends up being that like it just doesn't, because they can't really trust each other because also they come from completely different cultural backgrounds and have nothing in common.
Yeah.
So, and one of them is magical. And it like, that's kind of a Selkie story, kind of a mermaid story. I also, as I was researching this, the difference between mermaids and sirens, I didn't realize this. Sirens, especially in Greek myth, were originally women who were part bird. So they would roost on rocks in the sea, and they would sing out and cause sailors to go to their death. Yeah, it was actually Christian bestiaries, which were like accounts of all the animals of the, like all God's creatures and stuff like that, were some of the first things recorded to show sirens as fish women. So that's where we get that from. That's sirens and mermaids. Mermaids have always been fish women. They haven't always had the siren thing of like luring sailors to their death on the rocks. Yeah. That sort of came at the same time as of the Christian bestiaries, like equivalating the two. Because mermaids a lot of times were considered just like, you would look into the water and you would see something that looked like a person, you'd be like, oh, it's a mermaid.
A manatee.
Like they had like magic stuff. Yeah. And there were like some mermaid stories that were like Selkie stories, there were some that were siren stories, but you know, it kind of runs the gamut. So
there is also a myth in the Persephone lore that Demeter was leaving Persephone with... Are you about to tell this one? Go ahead and tell
I
it.
wasn't. No, you can tell
okay.
it. I completely forgot about that, but I did.
Yeah.
I did want to mention that.
There is, basically, it's that Demeter was leaving Persephone under the care of nymphs and told them, if you ever let anything happen to my daughter, I will murder you. I will punish you so badly that you'll wish for death. And they were all like, yeah, got it. And they loved Persephone, but also they were like under the fear of extreme punishment. And so when Hades came up to grab Persephone, the ground opened up, his chariot came out with all these black horses, and he snatched her and then started pulling her under the earth again. The nymphs fought so hard for her. They were like throwing themselves on top of him and like trying to wrestle a god. And like one of them literally was being pulled under the ground with her. She was like holding on to Persephone's clothes and was like screaming and was gonna hold on. And then Hades ended up knocking her off just before the ground closed. So he didn't let any of them come with. And so after this like great, they fought so fucking hard. But then she was disappeared under the ground. They couldn't fight a god. So then two of them remained sitting there like in shock and like crying. And Demeter came up and was like, where's my daughter? And they were like, I don't know how to tell you this. A god came up and took her, and Demeter punished them by basically their tears had made a river at that point. Like they had cried so much that they had made this rushing river, and then Demeter turned them into sirens. And that's what they were. They were these weird monsters that were pushed into that river of salt. That was their tears. Yeah.
That's slightly different from the one that I have. I have a website that someone did the comparison of Selkies, mermaids, and sirens. They said sirens were companions of Persephone and were given wings to search for her when she was kidnapped by Hades.
Much better.
They were cursed for allowing her abduction, and they were fated to live only until a human could pass by them without dying, which is Odysseus in the Odyssey.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, Odysseus plugs his ears and his sailors' ears with wax to keep them from being drawn onto the rocks by sirens, and so they're the first people to survive the sirens. So then all the sirens die.
But also, isn't he like, I want to be able to hear them, and so he ties himself to the mast and then takes out the wax because he's a goddamn...
Because he's a ding-dong.
He's a ding-dong. He's a adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Extreme siren watching.
It's also a lot of the stories about mer people, beyond being like sailor stories where you look into the ocean and you see like a woman who is also a fish, come from medical things that can be. I mean, this is the case with a lot of like half human, half something else stories. Medical conditions like webbed toes and ichthyosis, which is like scaled skin, basically. It's a skin condition where some of like people were like, oh, this person their mom was a mermaid or something like that. There's also I think it's a kind of, it's a breathing disorder. It's called Undine's curse. Undine, again, that mermaid from the story who fell in love with a human man. It is also called congenital central hypoventilation syndrome. Basically, while you're sleeping, you lose the ability to control your breath, and so you run the risk of suffocating in your sleep.
So like sleep apnea?
Yeah, kind of like that.
There's a lot of mermaid references in our everyday life. That's weird.
Yeah, there's a line from Undine, which it gets the name Undine's curse from.
Yeah.
The play Undine has the line, I shall be the shoes of your feet, I shall be the breath of your lungs. Undine is promising, when she gives her vows to her husband, whose name is, by the way, I want to mention this, in the play Undine, her husband's name is Hans. And I couldn't find any reference to it, but I'm 100% sure that he's named after Hans Christian Andersen, because this play was written like 100 years after The Little Mermaid.
Cool.
In the play Undine, she gives her vows to her husband, and one of the things she says is, I shall be the breath in your lungs. And she finds out, basically, that her husband has been lying to her. And so she goes to, I think it's her father, who has magic, and she's like, I want to, if he ever lies to me again, I want to take back everything I've ever given him. And so when she sees him later, he says, I have to be woken up every couple minutes when I sleep because otherwise I stop breathing. And that's a component of the play, which is where the term Undine's curse comes from, or vice versa. Not really sure.
Maybe.
But yeah, I haven't read the play Undine, so I'm not super familiar with it. But
Undine's a beautiful name.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I really love it. Also, mermaids, their lineage in terms of mythology is they are like fish people, but also in a lot of cases they are equated with elemental spirits, things like naiads, dryads, nymphs in Greek mythology, but also spirits of the water and also spirits of the air, like the daughters of the air in The Little Mermaid, in especially in Gaelic and Nordic cultures. That's a pretty consistent theme.
So it's not like out of the blue that suddenly there are daughters of the air.
Oh, it is still. but they're like, not only do they live in the water, but they have some control over the water and things having to do with the water and things like that. Sometimes they can turn into water, stuff like that. So anyways, mermaids, guys.
Mermaids! Freaking mermaids!
I have never hated anyone in a story as much as I hate the prince in that story.
Yeah, he's pretty awful.
Callous and disgusting, and I hate him.
You told it really fucking well.
Thanks.
And now I'm gonna have my mermaid obsession renewed.
I know.
Every couple years that happens.
I just
get ready.
I was expecting, because again, I haven't read that story since I was a kid, and I had like a kid's version of the story, and I was like, it's fine. But reading it again, I was like, oh, this is devastating. Anyways, back to my earlier point also, Guillermo del Toro to direct The Little Mermaid. Can you imagine Guillermo del Toro, like, sea witch?
Yeah,
and shit?
Would be
like
fucking great.
Like, her, like, just picturing, like, Crimson Peak or, like, El Orfanato, the blood, like, trailing up into the ceiling, but it's her feet.
Yeah. Great.
Anyways,
okay, well, Guillermo, call us.
Yeah, hey, Guillermo.
If you want to chat.
We have not yet had our fill of fish fucking. I have
Bye.
not yet.
That was sort of the story. Guys, excellent.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we're going to separate these two episodes, or these stories into 2 episodes. So this week, I hope you enjoyed The Little Mermaid, and next week, get ready for another famous one. Thanks, guys. Bye. Having anybody in medicine in a house full of hypochondriacs is delightful and dangerous. And I'm ready for my brother to test my pee. Next, I'm ready for my brother to test my pee. Next.
I'm proud of you.